I didn't know what I didn't know. That's a very dangerous place to be. People don't need to be listened to. They want to be understood. This is like one of the most priceless gifts that we have is time. If people have all the time in the world to figure out their dreams, so be it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear and welcome to Iky Chan. I am so excited to have you here. It's been a few weeks, maybe a couple months since we've actually sat down for coffee for the first time, and I learned about you, and I was just so inspired by your story, what you do, all the things that you're doing, all the things that you've done, and I'm really excited to dig in with you today. So thanks for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, this is exciting. Oh yeah, you were, and I think one of the things that's inspired me about knowing you and coming to know you has been just where you've come from, this inspiring journey of you wanting to continue learning, continue growing, and then help others shine in their lives. One of the things I thought about as I read your bio that you sent to me was that you want to help other people shine. And it made me think that if you want to help the world shine, you need to shine yourself. And that's exactly what you do. Can you share a little bit about where you came from? How, you grew up in Hong Kong. Can you talk a little bit about growing up and what brought you to the United States and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is my background, my upbringing definitely relates to my life mission of helping people shine. So my mother is a very strong, smart, hardworking woman. Unfortunately, in Hong Kong growing up, she was not allowed to go to school. School was not free, similar to this country in the United States. So because of that, she did not graduate from high school. I did not know that until maybe recent years when I dig deeper. And her answer was a classic one. Oh, I just missed a few classes. When you say a few, it's probably double that, right? So,
right.
And then my father, he had to start working when he was a teenager. He was the oldest in the family in Hong Kong. And he had to go to night school to finish high school. And she learned British English at the time. So he had a regular job. My mom stayed home with us. I think one point I want to go back is because my mom has so many unrealized dreams in her, she could see her own potential. Unfortunately, I believe the system kind of failed her. She was not able to realize all her dreams. And so before I was born, she had a very clear vision of what or who I should turn out. One of the most important things for her as me and my two younger sisters would be, we must graduate from college. And that was like, what are you talking about? Like nobody in our family ever graduated from college. And then I was a born artist. So that was very clear. As soon as I could pick up a pencil, I would pull out pictures from a family album. I would start drawing 2 or 3, I don't even know, naturally. And I was really good. And as I got really good, my parents got scared because there's no money as an artist. And in Hong Kong, I don't think any parent in their right mind would allow their children to be artists. And the classic one is become a medical doctor, right? And
right.
I did not become a medical doctor. So I failed my mom again. So when I was roughly 6 years old, I believe, I remember one night my parent was very serious, sat me down at the dining table and looked me in the eyes and say, Iky, you are going to United States for college. You'll be wildly successful. You get a really good job, make lots of money. We count on you. Yeah. So I was maybe 6. So in my little brain, so I kind of relate, okay, they told me not to be an artist. So, okay, that's too bad. That's the only skill I thought I had. And then I must be really good in English. Now, Hong Kong at the time was still a British colony.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned British English, the reading, writing. We don't get to speak. We were taught by Hong Kong teachers, never been outside of the country. So the spoken English, you can kind of judge how good it is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how we all grew up. So I knew I had to get good grades, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that became my mission. And I didn't know anything else. And now looking back, my entire family, not just my mom and dad, my grandpa, grandma, aunts, cousins, uncles, they all share the same wildest dream of the vision of Iky need to turn out on me. So growing up, I never questioned, did we even have money to do that? It's like a done deal. Every time I hang out with my family, extended family, that's what they told me. So they kind of reinforce my future
That's
to
got to
me.
be a ton of pressure on a 6-year-old to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it kind of helped me to train myself with a particular mindset. I got fearful. I got like, what if I don't get like a high A? Because my mom had super high, unrealistic standards on me. I must get like 100. 98 is not enough. And she'll question me. And so I was constantly like scared about disappointing my parents, especially my mom.
Yeah.
So
that's I mean, it's, you know, it's got to be really. It had to have been a unique upbringing too. Just being in a British colony, you know, in China, you know, that kind of dynamic where, you know, you have that multiple cultures kind of blending there, and having not left that, and having these expectations when you're 6 to, you know, put down the passion, put down the art, and because there's no money in that, supposedly, by the way, limiting belief, but you know, there's and then focus on, you know, you're going to be the first person to go to college and be successful and wildly successful. How did that shape your mindset growing up?
I would say that was my mission. So I'm glad that it was so strong in me as my mission, because so when I was a high schooler, so I got, you know, the notice that, okay, I am coming to this country. So I moved here alone.
When you're 16, right?
I was a high schooler.
Okay.
Yeah. Not 6 years old, high schooler by myself.
Wow.
So at the time, my spoken English was completely horrible. I couldn't even speak British English properly, let alone American English. By the way, they're different. It's different, you know, it's not just English, right? I didn't know until I came here, you know.
Yeah.
It's just not knowing, right? Well, how would I know?
Right.
The spoken and listening was difficult. I had to get good grades in a public high school. Very few people look like me, just by the way. So it was a lot of challenges. And roughly 6 months into my journey, I was still in high school. There was another news. There's no money for college. Like, it's just not there. I was like, oh, okay. So instead of playing victim, which I don't, because I train my mind not to only focus on what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm like, okay, so I'm not going back to Hong Kong because that's impossible. My parents probably would disown me. So it's not an option. So the only option is finish college, but I'm still in high school. How to do that? It just keep going one day at a time.
Oh, I love that. That's such great advice. Yeah. Yeah. Right? One day at a time.
One day at a time. Looking back, yes. Looking back is kind of like laughable. It's like a lot of comedy material. So.
Which we have to get into, by the way, because you are also a professional comedian too. You know, you're very funny, and I like what you said there though too, because you had a lot of challenges coming over into the United States, language barriers, financial barriers, the fact that you were still in a high school and alone, so many things coming against you. But the idea that you don't focus on being a victim, I really love that terminology, because I feel like a lot of us, especially when we're afraid, it's easy to fall into that mode and fall back of saying it's out of my control. I'm a victim. And,
Right.
so what were some of the tools you used to kind of shift yourself out of that victim mindset and into a more empowering, like, I'm going to keep moving forward one day at a
Yeah,
time mindset?
I want to credit my mom. My
Hmm.
mom is such a strong woman. She had very little resources to raise the family. We didn't have much growing up, and she never once complained. She always figured out what she wanted. She has a clear vision of what it needs to turn out, and she would ignore everything else. Like if there's a neighbor, she kind of casually shares something like outrageous about, oh yeah, my daughter is going to United States and she will graduate from college, she'll be wildly successful. And then people were like, oh, why are you smoking? Like it doesn't happen in this class of people, right? She's just
Right.
like, doesn't matter.
Right.
So I
Wow.
kind of learned from her. She always think about solution. Very resourceful, like creatively resourceful. So I think I have a role model. I mean, if she were to be the person who complain and cry and not take action, I probably would have turned out just like that. I guess. I don't know. So because of that, also she is extremely strict with all three of us. It's kind of like a drill surgeon in the house. She monitor every single move of our move. If we, how do I say it? If we do not behave at the standards she set for us, uh, bad thing will happen. Bad thing will happen. And so I was trained to be extremely vigilant to her, make sure I am out of sight. So I'm in my little bubble. And so I can like do my own thing. So if I didn't do anything right, I'll know right away. It's like a few words, and then it's like, whoa, I better behave. So I was just trained to constantly, okay, this is the solution. How can I please her? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
So just clear consequences, clear
yes,
rewards, or clear expectations. And it sounds like that
yes.
kind of got you on a path of just knowing that was some certainty. And so yeah. So you're in the United States. Were you living with a foster family? How did that work coming over in high
Yeah,
school?
I live with my father's sister and aunt.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, when I was in college, I live in the dorm and
Mhm.
on campus. Yes.
Nice. And and so not having money to go to college, how did that work out? One day at a time, you continued to work. What was the path that got you into college?
My parent, my mom had to do two jobs. I was fortunate to have a very wealthy family friend. She paid for 1 year of my college. So again, being resourceful, there are always angels out there. I would say there are a lot of kind-hearted people. They're ready to help. I mean, I look back, it was a large sum of money. Now I'm in a better financial status now. I would have done the same to someone, extra money to help other people. But at the time, it was like a fortune. Like, oh my gosh,
Sure.
no way. So yeah, and my family is very close in Hong Kong. There was 1 year they kind of chip in, and so when I was about to go to graduate school, I did not have money for a vehicle, so they kind of chip in, and then my mom sent me a check for $8,000, but it was from
Wow.
many family members.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was like a Kickstarter, right? Before Kickstarter was even, available. So it's
Right.
one of those.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, it's a good community. I'm very fortunate to have a really supportive family system. And also they all share the same wildest dream of my parent. And they really want me to succeed.
Yeah.
So I
One
cannot thank
thing
them for that. Yes.
I love that because one of the things that sticks out to me with that regarding that is the importance of community. Yes, but when there's high expectations on you, it does have it must have a big weight on you to like have to be the person that's going to the United States, having to be successful, having being reinforced by that message, but also to have that community of support, like sharing their resources to help you with that was probably a big step forward to maybe help you overcome some of those fears and anxieties that you had at that time?
Yeah. So yeah, when I was in college before graduate school, it yeah, my fear was, is it the last quarter? Because I went to school with quarterly system, not semester. So which is like we have to pay more often the
Right.
tuition. And like,
Right.
is it my last one when I
Yeah.
receive a check? It's like, oh, it's 2 days before, my rent is due for the
Yes.
next quarter. I'm like, is it my last? Is it my last? So I'm like, I can't worry about that. All I can think about is I need to get the best grades I can.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I and so as as you go through college, your what career path were you working toward? Obviously not a doctor. You were saying you weren't going to be a doctor, but what was the path that you were looking to go down, and how did that progress?
Yes. I explore many different options, and I enrolled in fashion design, uh, and it is outrageous. Again, it's an artistic pursuit. And one thing led to another. I had to take chemistry in a community college before I could go to the real college. I try to save money, so I consistently get 100%. So my chemistry instructor pulled me aside, like, what are you going to college for? I said, fashion design. I think he almost collapsed to the floor. And it's like, what are you doing? You're so good with like STEM and chemistry. You need to be a chemical engineer. I'm like,
Right.
my first question, is there money in it? Can I get a job? I'm like, yeah, you can. Oh my goodness, you can make so much money. I'm like, I'm in. I don't even know what that was. And I'm like, seriously, I did not know what that was. I'm like,
Right.
what? Um, as long as I get good grades, I get my degree, then I can get a job.
Yeah, as long as it brings in the money, right? Yeah, just keep all
Exactly.
that
That was my
success, feeding
mission.
that
So my
success.
mission
Yeah.
was very clear. Get a good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, yeah. And so and I'm guessing you probably got the good grades. You succeeded with that. You got into engineering rather than the fashion design. So you had that little dabbling moment where you got back into the creative side of it. I'd love to hear like so when you did that, did was what was how did that affect your mindset at that time? Like were you feeling like this is lighting me up again, like getting back into these artistic pursuits? Did you feel a difference when you went from that fashion design school to going into going into chemistry or chemical engineering? What was your mindset like in that?
I was how should I say it? I had to do a strategic planning. I have to evaluate the return on investment and the risk factor of getting a job that I will stop being poor, because I was so poor. I'm like, I cannot be poor anymore. I'm tired of it. This is not fun. Okay. It is
Right,
not fun.
right.
So when I was in college, I was so broke, I couldn't even afford Panda Express if there was a Panda Express. So kind of describe the situation. I'm tired of it. Okay. Get me out of here. So I'm like, okay, fashion design is very risky. I may not be able to enjoy my Panda Express. So this is more certain. So I just choose a path that will get me out of that.
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
that simple.
that's yeah. No, that's no, and so it's not so really the fear, it sounds like, of just not making the money drove you
Yes.
towards that in that direction
Yes.
of chemical engineering. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It is
Yeah.
not fun to not have the enough financial resources, because I believe, based on my life experience, looking at my parents work very hard their entire life and myself, it creates a lot of unhappiness and frustration.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
unneeded. Um, Fortunately, I got out of it. So
Yeah. That's good. And then And so in the career that you got into, chemical engineering, how did that go? You graduate from college. I know you had 2 master's degrees and you got those in a time span of like 2 years, something like that.
Yes. So it's another thing, kind of like pattern in my life, because I didn't know what I didn't know. So that's a very dangerous place to be. You did not know what you did not know. So when I got into chemical engineering, I did not know I would not even land an internship, like a pay, because I was an international student. So most of the internship at the time, I believe they require a green card status. So anyway, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I started to apply for jobs, and it was very difficult in my senior year. So I'm like, okay, plan B. Got to have a plan B. That's Iky, right? Just like my mom. Then I'm like, okay, graduate school. And then I remember calling my mom, and she's like, oh, Iky, we just cannot afford graduate school. It's really expensive. Of course, it's expensive. So you are on your own. And then I remember I hung up. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And I'm like, okay, so I must go for the school that not only will they accept me, they'll pay for a full ride. So that narrowed down to 2 choices. I applied for 2. I both got in. One offer a master's degree, another one PhD. I was going for the shortest. Remember, I was very clear about my mission. I went for the master. And the funny thing is, I did not want to become a chemical engineer. I wanted to do computer science, but there was no money. I could not talk to the school to give me a full ride. So I had to be creative again. I called the school. I'm like, hey, can you get me a second degree on top of chemical engineering? I swear I'll finish in 2 years, so you're not going to waste any money on me. They said, no, but how about electrical engineering? That's what I mean. It was just a verbal thing. And then I just drove cross state with my U-Haul and then show up and found an advisor to sponsor the electrical engineering piece. And then I did one thesis for both, which like no one did that combination. It was quite odd. And then I did AI programming.
AI programming.
Yes. When before AI was hot.
Yeah, I was about to say this. So this was like when, what time period was this? This was
late 90s.
Wow. Yeah, that's like right when the internet's coming out and you're getting into artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So I know way more about AI than I wish. But anyway, so that was my path. Yes.
So is AI going to take over the world? Are we going to have to bow down to our artificial intelligence masters at some point?
Are you asking me that question?
I was kind of joking. It was a bad joke.
Oh, okay.
I always get curious with people who know a lot about AI and the theme of like, well, AI is going to eventually take us over, but I digress. It's but so you got the degree and it got you into your first phase of your career, and and how I imagine the idea of like the language barrier and the cultural barrier was something you had to get across and move through to get to that situation in life. How was that trajectory for you, and how did you work through that?
Yeah, so I think my first culture shock was moving to this country. And I think over my experience, like out of school, and then in workplaces, in company, I would say less diverse to more diverse. I kind of experienced the best environment for someone like me to thrive. I would also say because of my personal experience, I think nowadays I'm glad people talk about DEI, DE&I. I mean, it's just a recent thing, right? People didn't talk about it in the past. People also talk about collaboration, inclusion. I would say from my experience in the workplace and also later on become a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Leading teams and organizations, people don't need to be listened to. They want to be understood. Think about that.
Yeah.
They need to be understood. They don't need to be heard. Now, early on when I came to this country many years ago, I spoke pretty broken English, right? They've heard me. They couldn't understand me. And then later on, my English was good, fluent. People could hear all the word. Some did not understand me. So I want people to kind of think about, sometimes it's not just the language. We need to take time to understand each other.
Hey everyone, I interrupt this program to introduce you to a powerful tool that will help you gain clarity on your vision and accelerate your growth and achievement. If you're listening to this show, it is likely that you have an exciting vision for your life. But the problem is that we often get caught up in the day-to-day. We get distracted, we face uncertainty, overwhelm, and self-doubt. And as a result, the gap between where you are and where you want to be seems insurmountable. And that's why I created a framework for how you can turn your vision into strategic, disciplined action that will accelerate your results in the next 90 days. I call it the Vision Reflection Retreat. It is a 2-day solo excursion designed to reignite passion and adventure into your busy life and realign your focus toward your why. This is the very same framework that I use every 90 days to reflect on my own life and my vision and set my goals for the next quarter. And it has been a game changer. And the good news is that I'm giving away this Vision Reflection Retreat guidebook for free when you sign up for my newsletter. Simply go to flowoverfear.com/retreat and download your free guide and enjoy the journey.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. That is such wise advice. The idea of language versus understanding that's such a unique distinction. And I'm so grateful that you brought that up. It sounds like that was a very important lesson for you, learning to understand people, that brought you into leadership, brought you into training. And by the way, like fast forwarding a lot, one of the things that I see that you are such a superstar at, like such a superhero at, is connecting with people. Like, just connecting. Like seeing how many people you connect with, different people that are just, at the top of the game. It's amazing to see the connections. You've connected me with some pretty amazing people. And so I see how that trajectory is taking you very far.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of understanding and kind of moving through in your career path, you did move into leadership, over the course of your career pretty quickly, and started making a name for yourself in that industry. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. It was accidental. I was extremely frustrated by the work system. I am one of those people who get bored very easily. I constantly need intellectual stimulation. So I was so used to the rigor, studying, and knowledge absorbing in college, right? So it was like bam, 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 2-degree, master. I skipped bachelor in electrical engineering, bam, show up in a master class with, I was the only girl, okay, Adam. So I was like, whoa, where am I? So I was so used to that. And I think the workplace is not designed to please me, to entertain me, and keep me challenged enough, I would say. So so I was frustrated. I was at the end of my career. I was ready to exit corporate. It was around end of 2010. And at my company at the time, they had to go agile transformation. So that was big in software engineering back then. It was still newer, 2011. I just raised my hand. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Is again, like not knowing what it is, you kind of see a pattern. I'm like, this is better than not doing anything. I'm ready. So I just raised my hand. I thought it's just program management, project management. It's way more than that. Just become a change agent, agile transformation leader, help people to consistently deliver high quality software products in a predictable way, not just one team, but many teams. So is it challenging enough, Adam? Yes, it was challenging for me because working with people is challenging.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
You have to, work with different individuals, teams. None of them report to me back then. Okay. So that early time, I had to lead teams. None of them report to me. They didn't have to listen to me. So I had to learn how to connect with one person at a time and paint a better picture for them. This is why we need to work differently. We need to deliver excellence. We don't feel like we are failure, because my second team, Adam, I thought about them. 5 people report to 5 different managers under my leadership. They never deliver anything for at least a year. So I was moved by my management to lead them. They were like one of the bottom 33 teams, because my stakeholder kind of told me on day one, like, Iky, these are garbage. They never deliver anything. I give them requirement. They never deliver anything. So I'm like, oh, okay, no expectation here, right, Adam? Like, again, huge expectation on my shoulder. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do their work. So because of that experience, I turned them around in 3 months. They started to deliver reliably. And then the same stakeholder 3 months prior told me to my face that these are garbage. I'm like, oh, you have the best team. This is the best team in the company. One of the best in 30. Hello, you just said they're garbage. They're no good. It's the same people, right?
Wow.
So that gave me the confidence that maybe I know how to lead people.
So what was that secret sauce that helped you to bring that team from basically what was the worst performing team in the company to the best? Because a lot of companies would ultimately just let go of that team, right? And find another team. But in this case, you turned them around. What was that? What was the secret in that?
Yes, I see potential in every single one of them. They were not slacking off. They worked really hard. I think the system failed them. The system. Mm-hmm. So I created system and processes to highlight their greatness, so that they could deliver high quality software repeatedly and reliably. It's the system. They work the same.
Yeah. I love that idea that so the systems failed them. And that's so important. Is a lot of times we just assume that people aren't performing up to their true potential. But it feels like people want to perform with their true potential. I mean, of course they do. But if we look around it and find the systems, I love that idea about it.
Yeah, think about me. I moved to this country alone. The system was not designed for an international student with no money. They just assume we have the most financial success and support for us to finish college. The system was not friendly. I still achieved my goal. So that, my personal experience, let me realize I wanted to do my best. The system was not friendly. I still have to do my best. And also, I talked to my previous boss. I worked for him for 6.5 years. Before he took an early retirement, that was over 5 years ago, he sent me a secret message, like a private, said something really good about me. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about, right? And I never understood what he meant. So I decided to call him a couple of weeks ago to ask him, hey, Gary, remember you said this? I'm like, yep, I still remember that. I sent you that email and then I logged out and then left the company. I said, what did you mean? And then he started to tell me things about myself. He said, Iky, you're very organized. I said, Gary, I'm not organized. I said, yes, you are the most organized person I've ever seen. I'm like, really? What do you mean? So I didn't take his label on the surface, because I'm not that organized. If you come to my house, right? So, and he said, well, you work for me for 6.5 years and you have teams working for you. You and your teams combined never drop any balls in 6.5 years. And on top of that, you and your team never tell me, no, it cannot be done. It is impossible, and start whining about how much work it will take. And you always come up with solutions. Sometimes it's just like a really sticky situation that give him a lot of headache, right? Because his boss wanted something. He knew, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's unrealistic. How can it be done? And then when he come to me, I'm like, the next day or that afternoon, I present a solution. Is it perfect? I don't care. It'll get us to what we need to be.
Gosh, it's so good. And what I'm hearing there is you don't believe you're organized, but there's an element of like putting those systems in place and having the right level of teams that maybe compensate for what you feel like might be a lack of organization, and almost playing to your strengths of just looking for solutions. One of the themes that's coming out in this interview, which I love, is the fact that A, resourcefulness, B, just find a solution, beyond and stop playing the victim or complaining or doing those kinds of things, but just work through the solutions. That's so good. And I love that aspect about it. And you had so you achieved exactly what you set out to do in the United States for your family, for you.
I exceeded that. I exceeded that. My parent, if I were to complete a 4-year degree, by the way, because they had no idea about college, I could have done any degree. Adam, it could be an easy ride, right? So, and then I exceeded. I got 2 masters in engineering. They were proud. They knew it's hard, it's kind of a good degree, I guess. They didn't know. And I exceeded the expectation. And then I had a really successful career in technology and engineering. And I felt like my mission accomplished.
Yeah. So you achieved that mission. And here's the interesting curveball of those is more recently, within the last, I don't know how many years, a few years, you left that career. You left the successful career, started pursuing your own ventures in creativity again, getting back into art, which, by the way, I have one of your amazing mugs here. Attention, please. And this is 2 turtles. And it incorporates not just your love of art, but your love of comedy, which I love.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear more about those creative endeavors of, art, of comedy and speaking. We met through the National Speakers Association, and also now how that's evolved into how you're coaching people. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I love that. So I want to step back in time, 2016, which I shared with you when we had coffee. I had a health scare. My body was not behaving as it should. On the surface, I was fine. I had so much pain, joint pain, hip pain. I was limping along. Otherwise, I was fine. I didn't hit myself And it turns out now, after years of self-healing and all that, looking back is so clear. It was not clear at the time. Now looking back, I believe my head and my heart were not aligned. Because I have such a strong mindset to achieve anything I set my mind to. But sometimes I ignore my heart. And over time, the body just, I'm guessing, I'm not a doctor, like our whack to a point that it had to break down to get my attention. So it was so bad that I was led to believe with all the medical doctors, I had weeks to live. Weeks. Okay. My husband traveled 90% of the time at the time, 2016. My son was he, how old was he? He was 4. Yes, 2016. Yes. And my daughter was 9. So just think about that. No family nearby. Nobody. So I was not fearful of dying. I was fearful of the aftermath my family had to go through. And my parents had to find out. All their lives, dream, and hope disappear. So I couldn't face that. So again, back to my thing, very naively, I had no option but to live. Think about that. I don't care what they tell me. They wouldn't tell me when. I begged them, like, can you just tell me, is it 3 months or 3 weeks? And they wouldn't say anything. I'm like, okay, plan B, Iky, plan B. What are you going to do if you only have 3 weeks? So that shook me to my core.
Wow. That's just, it gives me chills to think about that. A doctor giving a diagnosis that you've only got weeks to live. And, how that shook up your life, just imagining the feeling. And I can certainly understand where you're coming from with regard to not being afraid to die, but being afraid of the aftermath for your family and a lot of that. So what were the immediate shifts that you made after hearing that to because it sounds like you got into that resourceful mode again and that grit
Mm-hmm.
mode of like, how am I going to solve this problem?
Yes.
Yeah.
Went through many testing and then confirmed that I was no longer going to die in weeks. And actually, they couldn't find out what was wrong. So that was a good and bad answer. So I still
Sure.
have things. So I'm not dying anymore, but they have no clue what was wrong with me. Oh, that's awesome, right? So I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this. I just took my children, went to Hong Kong that Christmas, December 2016. Resourcefulness came in, notified my parent about, okay, I have some sticky things going on. Don't scare them. I'm not dying. And then saw a Chinese doctor, medicine. And then saw a chiropractor, type of person in 2 weeks, and came back and continue my recovery journey.
Wow.
So it took all these years. I had all sort of food sensitivity. Like how bad I had a laundry list of food I could not eat per the Chinese medicine doctor. And then I had a naturopathic doctor that I saw 2017. I was sensitive to, okay, just a few, just to humor you. Gluten, egg, dairy, and sugar.
Oh man, all the good stuff. No.
Oh, I know, all the good stuff. So
Right.
I was forced again to a point that my diet was totally different. And I remember looking at food, like shopping for food. I have to cook normal meal for my family, and then for myself, I have to eat differently. It's not like I have all the time in the world to cook. I still have a full-time job.
Right.
So,
Raising two kids. Right.
Yes, my husband still travel a lot. And again, it's that resourcefulness. Instead of looking at what food I could not eat, I look outside of that. What food can I eat?
Looking
How
at the
can I
positive. Yeah.
Those food that I can consume a little bit more tasty.
I love that. It's such a positive frame of mind to put into a negative, almost dire situation. And how did that shift your career? Like when you decided to move into that new career? And I'd love to hear about how that developed.
So I think when people have that type of experience and then all of a sudden they're living healthily, I just knew in my heart that, okay, I'm very lucky. I'm living again. This is like one of the most priceless gifts that we have is time. I have more time. What do I do with my time? So I was very conscious about, okay, I definitely love my family. Outside of that, I can do more. I want to help more people. I had no skill at the time. I didn't know how to help. So I had to deliberately build enough skill to a point that I believe once I exit corporate, whatever I do, I'm going to help a lot of people very effectively. And one of the things was coaching, because I have been my own coach my entire life. Not until recently, I hired coaches to help me to develop certain skills and areas very specific. So I was at a point that was 2020, when the world kind of blew up, right? So again, that kind of shift me to be very conscious about, okay, the world is falling apart. I need to center myself. Okay, this is the best opportunity to do what I wanted to do, actually. So I saw a lot of opportunity, actually. And I'm like, this is the best time to quit, okay, in the midst of this. So I quit in September. Before that, I'm like, okay, should I be a therapist or coach? because I sincerely want to help people, because I was constantly lost because of my life experience. I had no guide. I wanted to be a guide for people. So I did my research, talked to a couple coaches, and they kind of explained to me the differences between a therapist and coach. And also I have a counselor in my life. So they kind of educate me on not being coach and therapist type counseling. So I kind of know that I want to move people from point A to point B. I really don't care about what happened before point A. Where they come from, kind of like me. I'm like, okay. So I decided to be a coach.
Wow, that's incredible. And in particular are you looking for as clients? Like what, where are they at in their journey, and where are you hoping to take them?
Yes. Because of my relentless pursuit of happiness, because I was very unhappy if I look back in my life, because I had a lot of responsibility, mission, overachieving and all that. And now I'm at the happiest place in my life. I mean, everything is still the same because I get to do what I like to do. I help the people who like me to help them. I have way more friends in my life than any point of my life, like you and other people I met. I want to help other people to be happy, to find their dreams, right? I talk about a lot of dreams. So I have dreams that I kind of like postpone or not think about it. So now I have the skill to guide people. It's all brain-based, based on neuroscience, to help people find out their dreams. And then now I have the ability, if they need help, like ongoing, once they know their dreams, I have two types of clients. Once they know their dreams, they are like all overachiever, top performer. They just run, they just group. And then I have another group that, they kind of need ongoing mindset upgrade. I would say reprogramming. Then we meet regularly. So that's the type of brain-based coaching I offer. And then I have the ability to get people unstuck, because I got myself unstuck constantly, right? If you listen to my life experience. So now I'm really good at getting people unstuck. Just asking questions in minutes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that approach. And I mean, I think that there's so much power in finding that community of coaches, but we as human beings are so much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for a lot of times. When we get ourselves in situations where we feel like we're hopeless, or we feel like there's no move forward, right?
Yes.
There's always a way forward. Always.
There's always.
And,
I'm glad you said that. I have coaches in my life now. People are like, why do you know coaches? I'm as human as you, I always say. There's nothing special about me.
Yeah.
I'm still human. I am more conscious about knowing when I'm stuck. If I'm unable to get myself unstuck in a short period of time. It's all about time. If I have my lifetime to figure something out, I'm not stuck. Right, Adam?
Right.
But if I need to get myself unstuck by next day, by tomorrow this time, I need to have a way. So it's all about time. If people have all the time in the world to figure out their dreams, so be it.
Yeah. And I think, given that your experiences, we're all products of our experiences and our interpretations of those experiences and how we assign meaning to those experiences. And the way that you've assigned meaning to your experiences in life, resourcefulness, solving those problems, it's so empowering. And you could see that the different direction your life could have gone.
Yes.
Just if your mindset was different, right? Like, I mean, if your mindset was different, if you were overwhelmed by the idea of going to the United States and doing that, it's like it would have just gone a different direction. And so it's such a great story and great testament, like, to the power of our mindset and how we can shape those solutions.
Yes.
That's amazing. And so, Iky, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn these, how to empower their mindset to find solutions and find their dreams the way that you want to do that with the neuroscience-backed coaching that you provide? Where can people find you?
Yeah, come to my website. It's ikychan.com, ikychan.com.
IkyChan.com. And and you'll find lots of really cool stuff there, art and and she's into comedy. We didn't get into the comedy discussion though, but we've been in kind of a little bit of the same circle
Yes.
there. It's just exciting to see where you've come from in terms of all of the your life is defined for you. You are going to be successful. You're going to do this stuff, and now you're exploring all of those creative outlets that you were digging into, what you were starting to dabble in when you were 6 years old. I'm really excited to see where you're going from here, Iky.
Yeah,
And
thank
I've
you.
just been so grateful to know you for the past few months. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. And to everyone else out there, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to check out Iky Chan at ikychan.com. Reach out to her if you have any coaching needs. And thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Flow Over Fear. If you are liking this show, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be first to know when I drop a new episode, including interviews or trainings or dad jokes. That's right, dad jokes. Add a little levity to your life. And if you liked this episode in particular, and you think somebody can get something from it, please share it with a friend. And that way we'll spread the message together. Thanks again for joining me today. We'll see you next time.